I am going to reach 100% perfection in Stardew Valley. Hello everyone, my name is Audie and welcome back to my Stardew Valley Perfection Run series. This video will be covering all of the progress that I made in Year 2 Fall. If you want to see my previous progress in this save, I will link the playlist down below. Also be sure to follow me over on Twitch to watch my progress live. We are getting closer and closer to 100%. Let's get into day 1. I started day 1 by clearing out my farm and getting it ready for this season's crops. I went to Pierre's to buy seeds and I stopped to pick up some forageables along the way. I bought all of the seeds that I needed for this season and then I went straight back to my farm and planted them. I went to the secret woods to chop down trees and then I stopped at the board to choose a quest. I decided to pick Lewis's quest to ship 100 pumpkins this season, and on my way home I ran into Harvey and I gave him a coffee. I made a few more kegs and then I made my way to the mines to level 60 so I could try to catch an ice pip. I was finally able to catch one just before midnight, and that means that I only have 4 fish left to catch in the game. Feeling good about the start of this season, I went home and I went to bed. It was raining on day 2 and I started the day off by taking care of my animals. I went to the secret woods again and I headed off to the beach to go to Ginger Island, but I got interrupted by a cutscene with Haley. Haley couldn't find her bracelet, but I don't really think she was actually looking that hard because it was like 10 feet away. I gave it back to her and then she hugged me and it was very uncomfortable. I went to Ginger Island and when I got there, I realized I forgot everything that I needed, so I went back home, got what I needed, and then went back. I blew up the boulder in front of the cave and Professor Snail came out and told me about his research. I agreed to help him and I collected 1 more golden walnut before heading home for the night and going to bed. It was raining again on day 3 and I took care of my farm before heading over to the library to add an artifact to the collection. After that, I decided to go to the desert and try to catch the scorpion carp again, but I still didn't catch it. But I did catch a whole bunch of trash and 14 sandfish. I decided to continue my day of fishing at the ocean, and when it got late, I decided to head home and go to bed. It was a bright, sunny day on day 4. I took care of my chores on the farm, and then I went to Clint to buy some ore. Look, I gotta do what I gotta do, okay? I gave Sandy a fire quartz that she had requested, and then I continued my mission to catch the scorpion carp. After a long, drawn-out battle, I finally caught the scorpion carp. So I went back home and took care of my greenhouse a bit. I made 5 new kegs, and then I fished in the river until late at night when I went to sleep. I had good luck on day 5, and Linus sent me a fish in the mail. Do you think it's still good to eat? It doesn't really matter because I sold it anyway. I put some food in my inventory and I danced around in front of the library to wait for it to open. At 9 a.m., I added another artifact to the library's collection, and then I once again had to wait for Pam at the bus. Because of the good luck, I did a skull cavern run on this day. I spent some time fighting off some monsters, collecting some ore and stuff, and almost dying. Eventually, when I ran out of food, I went home, organized my stuff, and then I went to bed. It was a bad luck day on day 6, and Gus asked me to bring him a lobster. I took care of my chores and then I went to Ginger Island. I spent some time fishing and I got a golden walnut. I went to the west side of the island and unlocked the Ginger Island house, and then I went into the frog's cave and he asked me to grow a melon here. I went around collecting stuff, added a fossil to the professor's bundle, and then I went to the volcano. I got more golden walnuts and eventually it was late enough that I decided to head home and go to bed. It was raining again on day 7 and I learned how to make fruit salad. I took care of my animals and I went up to Robin's. I got a cutscene where Demetrius was being really weird, but I didn't tell Maru that. I asked Robin to upgrade my house and then I went back home and took care of my starfruit farm in the greenhouse. There were also some ancient fruit ready and our ancient fruit collection is slowly getting bigger. I collected all of my wine that was ready and then I filled up the kegs with starfruit. I decided to go to the desert and buy more starfruit seeds, so I replanted them once I got home. I spent the rest of the day working on making recipes and then I went to sleep decently early. Wouldn't you believe it was raining on day 8 and it was a great luck day. I grabbed some food, went to buy some bombs from the dwarf, and then I went off to the desert. I spent most of the day blowing up rocks, killing serpents, and collecting Omni Geodes. When I got low on food, I decided to head home, but not before stopping to buy some artifact troves from the desert trader. When I got back to Pelican Town, I took a request from Clint to kill 50 grubs, and then I went home and went to bed. I was thankful to see the sun on the morning of day 9. I took care of my animals, and then I went down to the beach to give my boyfriend Elliot a gift. His door was locked though, so I went around a bit to look for him. Turns out he was in his house the whole time, just with his door locked. I was at 9 hearts with Elliot, and I really wanted to marry him this season. I went fishing in the ocean for a bit, and then I moved to fish in the town river to try and catch a salmon. I caught one pretty quickly, and then I went home and used it to make salmon dinner. After that, I headed to the mines to work on Clint's quest. I stayed out late working really hard on the quest, only to not even make it home. I passed out on the road in front of the bus. I reached level 9 combat overnight. My house was bigger on day 10, so I had to reorganize some things. I got billed 1,000 gold for passing out in front of the bus, so Thanks, Harvey. It was a great luck day again, but I didn't want to go back to Skull Cavern, so instead I decided to open my geodes at Clint's. I went to stop by Elliot's house on the way, but I got a cutscene with him on the beach instead. He took me out on a romantic boat ride, and I'm like 99% sure that this is a kiss and not a hug. We officially have 10 hearts with Elliot. After the cutscene, I went to Clint's to have him open my geodes, and I got several new things for the library's collection, as well as something for Professor Snail's collection on Ginger Island. I decided to go ahead and bring it there, so I took Willie's boat to the island. It was raining there, and I got the stupid topaz bird for the 3rd time in a row. I dropped off the skull at Professor Snail's tent, and I also caught a blue discus, meaning I only had 2 fish left in the game to catch. I decided to head home after that, and after some inventory organizing, I went to sleep. It was a good luck day on day 11, and it was raining again. Lewis reminded me that I could now buy a mermaid's pendant, but I was way ahead of him. We're gonna get married to Elliot this week. I bought the mermaid's pendant at the beach, and then I fished for a bit waiting for Elliot to open his door so I could propose. He finally opened his door after making me wait for like an hour in the rain. I proposed to Elliot and he accepted and told me he'd get everything ready for us to have a wedding in 3 days. Okay. I went home and made some melon seeds to take with me to Ginger Island, and then I took care of my animals. I grabbed the melon seeds and I went straight to Willie's boat. Once I got to the island, I planted the melon seeds on the farm, and then I spent the rest of the day and into the night looking for golden walnuts, but I didn't find any. So I went home and went to bed. I decided to go to the mines on the morning of day 12. I grabbed my cherry bombs and headed down to the mines to finish Clint's quest. It took me some time and a lot of bombs, but I finished it. And then, because I deserve it, I went to bed early. Also, my cow gave birth overnight, so hello Snelly, welcome to the farm. On the morning of day 13, I spent some time making some gold bars and a geode crusher. I harvested all of my crops that were ready, took care of my animals, and then I went to Ginger Island. It was raining there again today, but this time the bird was at the beach, so I got the amethyst and I put it on the pedestal in the forest. I decided to go to the volcano, but I didn't make too much progress because I didn't have any food. One of these days, I'm going to beat the volcano. I got another fossil for Professor Snail's collection, and he gave me a golden walnut in return. I solved one of the secret notes and got another golden walnut and a pearl. I went back home after that, and it was late, so I went to bed. Day 14 was the day of my wedding. Elliot and I got married, but this is obviously not my actual wedding because I guess I didn't dress up or anything. Elliot moved in right away, and I'm not gonna lie, I went about my business as I normally would. I took care of my farm, collected everything from my animals, and then I took care of my greenhouse. I harvested my starfruit that were ready, and I also collected all of the oak resin that was ready at my tree farm. I put that away for later, but after that, I collected all of my wine that was ready, and I filled up as many kegs as I could, including using some of the ancient fruit that I had harvested. I ran to Pierre's to get more pumpkin seeds to try and complete the quests that I had accepted at the beginning of the season. I had to interrupt my day by taking a pickle juice shot though, and then I worked on making a few recipes. I put the food I cooked away, made a few kegs, and then I talked to Elliot before I decided to go to sleep. I kissed Elliot good morning for the very first time on day 15. This is really cute. I made some copper and iron bars, and then I made a few recipes. I'm feeling really good about my progress in this save so far. After that, I spent some time getting gifts together so I could give them out, and I was mainly working on this in order to get the rest of the recipes as soon as I could. I gave fish tacos to Caroline, a diamond to Evelyn, a rabbit's foot for George and Sandy, escargot for Gus, roasted hazelnuts for Kent, an emerald for Clint, ice cream for Demetrius, and a beer for Shane. Although I immediately regretted that last one when I walked into the forest and Shane was drunk and threatening to roll off the cliff. I took Shane to the hospital, and then I made more kegs, and when it got super late, I went to bed. Shane came by and apologized on the morning of day 16. I told him it was a wake-up call, and he agreed. I'm still gonna give him beer to get to 8 hearts though, just saying. I went to buy the beach obelisk before the Stardew Valley fair started, but I got impatient and went to the fair anyway, assuming I could swing by afterward, which I couldn't. I went to the Stardew Valley fair, set up my Grange display, talked to everyone, and won the competition with a score of 106. I was disappointed after the fair when I realized that the Wizard's Tower was locked, but I had no other choice than to just go home and go to bed. On day 17, I decided to go to Ginger Island. I went to the Wizard's Tower to buy the beach obelisk, and then I went over to the beach and took Willie's boat to the island. I made some furnaces, and then I realized I forgot something, so I went home to get it, and when I went back to Willie's, it was closed. So I went home and made a new recipe, and then I went to bed. I went back to Ginger Island on the morning of day 18. It was raining on the island, and I got another gem from a bird for that little little quest. I only have one more gem to get. I decided to try getting through the volcano, and after eating almost all of my food in the first 2 levels, I knew that I wasn't gonna make it. I did make it to level 7 though. I cleared out the dig site, gave 2 new fossils to Professor Snail, and then I slept at my Ginger Island house for the very first time. On the morning of day 19, I ran to the professor's tent and completed his questions about flowers and starfish on the island. I went back to the Ginger Island farm, set up an area for crops, and then I decided to head back to my real house. I gave Pam a battery that she asked for, and then I went to the library to drop off a new artifact. I only have 3 artifacts left that I need. I collected gifts again, and I ran around trying to make friends with everyone. By the time that I was done with that, it was late, so I decided to head home and go to bed. I got a new recipe from Emily in the mail on day 20, and I ran inside and made it immediately. I took Willie's boat to Ginger Island once again, and I took care of my crops before clearing out the dig site. Sadly, I didn't find anything new, so I decided to head back home. I went to the desert, bought some seeds from Sandy, and then I went to the quarry to cut down some trees and get some wood. After that, I went to bed way earlier than usual. On the morning of day 21, I collected all of the wine that was ready, collected my crops, and took care of my animals. I collected a whole bunch of oak resin, and then I made 10 more kegs. I harvested all of the starfruit that was ready in my greenhouse, and I filled up all of my kegs. Yes, all of them. After that, I went to the mines to work a bit on the Monster Hunter quest, and when it got late, I went home and I went to bed. I started day 22 by taking care of my animals, and then I once again gathered gifts for some of the villagers. I tried to find Caroline, but I couldn't, so I went to Evelyn and George's house and gave them each their gifts. I stopped by Clint's and gave him a ruby, and then I got a cutscene with Emily. It was pretty groovy. I gave Emily her gift, and then I stopped by and gave Kent a rabbit's foot. I decided to head to the desert and give Sandy a flower, and while I was there, I bought a cactus seed. I thought it would look cute to put in my bedroom. I went to the saloon and gave gifts to both Shane and Gus, and then I ran up to the mountains to give Demetrius some ice cream. Because it was dark, I went home and I planted the cactus. I turned my coffee into triple shot espressos, and then I went to sleep. I got 3 more recipes in the mail on day 23, and I immediately went into the kitchen and made 2 of the 3. I went around to pet all of my animals, and then I collected some food and took a bus to the desert. Despite what you may be thinking, I did not go to Skull Cavern. I needed a coconut for one of the recipes I got this morning, so I collected everything from the desert, and then I decided to go to the mines. My goal was to work on the Monster Hunter quest, specifically to kill all of the Duggies I needed. I was only 10 away from completing the goal, so I went on a hunt to kill as many Duggies as I could, and on a monster-infested level, I completed the Dougie Monster Slayer goal. I decided to work on skeletons and bats with the rest of my night, and right before passing out, I made it to bed. I went to Ginger Island on day 24, and it was raining. I was convinced that this was the rainy day that would give me the last bird gem that I needed. However, I was wrong, and I got the jungle bird for the 4th time. I cleared out the dig site, and then I asked Leo's bird for some help to find some walnuts. He told me that there were some in the volcano, and I decided that I would finish the volcano this week. I returned home, grabbed some food, and headed down to the mines. I checked the Adventurers Guild, and I was only 10 skeletons away from finishing that goal. It took me all night, but I completed it, and then I went home and I went to sleep. I went back to Ginger Island on day 25, but I realized I forgot all of the seeds I needed, so I went back home to get them. When I got back, I randomly walked in the background of a commercial that Shane, Emily, and Clint were making, and then I went to the desert to buy even more starfruit seeds. After that, I went back to Ginger Island, and I planted some of my seeds on the island farm, and then I cleared out the dig site. I tried to clear out the farm a little bit, and then I went home and went to sleep. On day 26, I discovered something horrifying. I had had this luck ring in my chest for God knows how long, and I haven't been using it. I switched out my magnet ring for the luck ring, and then I collected everything from my crab pots. I took my geodes to Clint, and I got 3 new things for the museum. At this point, I had 1 more mineral to collect and 3 more artifacts. I also needed to add a prismatic shard to the library's collection, since I used the only one I've found so far to make my galaxy sword. I then decided that today would be the day that I would conquer the volcano. I grabbed a whole bunch of food and went straight there. On the way, Chat and I may or may not have plotted Clint's murder. All I'm saying is, watch your back, Clint. All of these people are out to get you. So, I'm not gonna lie, I was able to pretty much just run straight through most of the volcano. I collected a few golden walnuts along the way, and I got a prismatic shard for the library at the end. I didn't combine my rings at the forge because I didn't have enough cinder shards, and by the time I unlocked the shortcut and left the volcano, it was really late, so I went home and went to bed. The morning of day 27 was very chaotic, and let me tell you why. So, I accepted this quest from Lewis at the beginning of the season to harvest and sell 10 pumpkins. You know which one I'm talking about. Well, all of my pumpkins were ready today, and I harvested them and threw them in the the box, and as I went to collect the rest of my pumpkins from my storage shed, I panicked because I thought that I was supposed to bring the pumpkins to Pierre. I didn't, but I didn't know that, so I restarted the day only to end up just selling the pumpkins anyway. The best part of this is that after restarting the day, I forgot to sell the pumpkins that were in my shed, so I actually didn't even finish this quest until day 28. After all of that confusion, I decided to upgrade the damage on my sword, so I went to Ginger Island and went to the forge. I got the upgrade and then I took care of my farm a little bit, planted more seeds, and went back to Pelican Town. I stood around doing nothing for a few hours, and then I went to the Spirits Eve Festival. I talked with everyone, and I went through the maze to get the golden pumpkin. I decided that I was gonna keep it to use it as a gift for someone, and then I went home and went to bed. And you guys are literally not going to believe it. Overnight, Elliot asked me to have a baby with him. And I said yes, obviously. And here it is, the last day of fall in year 2. I'm really proud of all of the progress I've made this season. When I woke up on the morning of day 28, I learned the recipe for fiddlehead risotto and I made it immediately. I took care of my animals and it took several trips to do so. I collected all of my wine that was ready and trust me, it was a lot. I collected my starfruit and ancient fruit that were ready and trust me, it wasn't a lot. That's okay though. I took my geodes to Clint's and I didn't get anything new, but I did add the prismatic shard to the library's collection. The collection is looking pretty good. I went home and once again went on my rounds giving gifts, but I have to highlight 2 horrible things that happened. First, I went out of my way to make fried mushrooms for George, but then I accidentally ate it right in his face. The other thing that happened was Caroline and Pierre trapped me in a doorway, and when I tried to give Caroline her gift, Pierre took it instead. I hate you, Pierre. By the time I was done giving out gifts, it was late, so I went to bed. And I made almost 300,000 gold from the wine, by the way. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please be sure to follow me over on Twitch to watch my progress live, and make sure you're subscribed so you can see when the next video comes out. I will see all of you in the next one, alright? Bye!